Welcome back. Well, Stephen Lett, he's on the camera again, and it's just one of those days. I thought I woke up this morning and I was going to have nothing to do, and here Stephen Lett is entertaining us all again. He's such an entertainer. I thought this video was very entertaining. Babies are now our friends. Remember, he said about babies, we'll play that in a second here, but he didn't say nice things about babies at the peace convention. That was what was that, during the summer convention, Pursue Peace 2022 convention, Friday morning session part 1. We're going to play that, what he said about babies to the whole world. Now, a year later, he's retracting. Now, again, I asked the audience, why? Why all the changes? Well, we just seen JW.org go into panic mode. They regarding Japan. They have to write letters to the Japanese government because the Japanese government is clamping down on cult-type religions, and they're being investigated. So Norway, in January, we will find the verdict if they're going to be disqualified as a religion in Norway. I believe a lot of this is about changing their image. They're going to talk about children in a different way. Now, you remember the New Zealand care program, it was all about children, caring for the victims. And up until now, they say they're not responsible. And it looks as though JW.org does not care for the victims that its organization created through the CSA cover-ups. So it looks as though they don't care. And so the whole world is coming down and saying, is this a religion that doesn't care about children? Because religion is about caring for children. So this is a complete different flip-flop. And let's take a look at it. First of all, let's see what he said, what this guy said 1 year ago. Let's take a look at this.
Actually, we think about it, we're born as enemies of God. Sometimes you'll hear people say of a little baby, look at that little angel. But more accurate would be to say, look at that little enemy of God.
Now, for many of us, we've seen that little clip of Stephen Lett over and over and over again. But the fact of the matter is, it came out of his mouth. It was scripted by the governing body 1 year ago, and they could have used a different illustration. Of course, they were talking about how they claim that we're born imperfect. And it's not until someone grows up and learns about Jehovah and gets baptized that they're all of a sudden not, they're standing in line for righteousness. But to use that kind of an illustration, I think, is lame. And I think today that he's trying to undo some of that damage. What do you think? I'll appreciate your comments. Now, I'm going to play one more clip before we start this whole thing, because when we're talking about children, when we're talking about covering up CSA, this is what the whole world's asking about. We're going to look at this year, and this hasn't been broadcasted yet publicly to the rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses. This is annual meeting stuff. But we're going to see their stance on when it comes to apologizing, when it comes to changes in the organization, how they feel as a governing body. They're not sorry. They're not going to apologize, according to this clip.
And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible, and so it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. Well, knowing this, then, we are not embarrassed about adjustments that are made, nor is an apology needed for not getting it exactly right previously. We understand this is how Jehovah operates. He reveals matters gradually when it is needed.
Well, there you have it from the governing body themselves. They are not going to apologize. They're going to make doctrinal errors. They're going to make mistakes. They're admitting that to the world. And they're making some changes. Why? Again, I ask the question, why? But now, with the not apologizing, that concerns us in the world. There's a lot of victims out there all over the world. And I don't think Norway is going to like that. I don't think they can be Jesus all they want. They can be like Jesus and have the kids climb on their knees, and the elders can stop and talk to the children in the hall. And it shows that they do care for children, or they're trying to care for children. At least they're trying to instruct their people to care for children. So let's get right into it, folks. Here it is. Here we go on to JW.org. This is brand new. This was just released today. We go to the What's New section. And we covered the video update number 8, where they're allowing beards now. Huge changes in this organization. Now we go to the next video. They're going to help young people. Imagine that. Help young people. Okay, let's listen to Stephen Lett again here. How do you feel about children now? Remember what he said last year? Here's what he's saying this year.
Now, how do you feel if you see a little baby lamb, a few days old? You're drawn to it, aren't you? What about little baby kittens just a few days old? You want to hug them. Or what about baby birds with their mouths wide open, waiting for the mother to feed them? They warm your heart. But now, what if you saw a hungry lion stalking that little lamb? Or a poisonous snake slithering closer to those little baby kittens? Or a bird catcher with a net sneaking up on those baby birds? Probably your heart would move you to try to do something to save those innocent, defenseless baby animals from the predator. Well, that illustrates how we feel when we see Satan, the lion, Satan, the serpent, Satan, the bird catcher, moving in on and trying to devour our young people. And that definitely is what Satan and the demons are trying to do. In fact, a brother many years ago, I never forgot this point in his talk, he said, at the flood, the half-breed children of the demons were killed, and their demon fathers were helpless, couldn't do anything. Could it be, the brother said, that the demons are now trying to get even? They lost their children, they're trying to destroy our children. Well, at least we can say it's food for thought.
You know what that tells me? These guys are watching the Anunnaki channel. This is where you see this stuff, is on the Anunnaki channels, the Sumerian tablets, where you see what he has to say about the children.
But unquestionably, Satan and the demons are after our young people. But now here's our question. Although parents have the primary responsibility to help their children, what can we as other adults do to try to reach out and help the young ones in our congregation? Well, let's talk about two things we can do. Number one, periodically take time to really talk with them and try to befriend these young ones. We don't want to be like the elder who always spoke to the teenager, Tim, how are you doing today? But the elder's very busy. He kept walking. One day, Tim stopped the elder. He said, "Brother Elder, you always ask me how I'm doing, but you never wait to get my answer." He was very embarrassed. He made sure that never happened again. He would stop, really talk to Tim. They developed a close friendship. And if they're little ones, we may need to stoop, bend, or sit down in order to get down on their level. See, a lot of these young ones live in a world of knees and swinging purses. But we can get down on their level, talk to them, befriend them. And when you think of that, as shown here in this beautiful picture, it even makes you think of Jehovah stooping down to help us. That's what Psalm 113, 6 and 7 says, that he stoops down to lift us out of the ash pit. But now here's the second thing. Think of Jehovah stoop their level. See, a lot of the...
So I thought this was a little bit funny when he was talking here. Just run it here through again. But he's talking about stooping down for these little children. And over here, where is that? Right here. He's talking about...
He was very embarrassed.
Timmy.
He made sure that never happened again. He would stop, really talk to Tim. They developed a close friendship. And if they're little ones...
So he gave that illustration about Timmy. So could you imagine you're an elder, and in the elders book we covered it not too long ago, and we can dig that up again. But right in the elders book, when it comes to CSA victims always needing help, the elders are too busy, and they can only do so many visits. They don't have an in-house counseling system. It's right in their elders book. If you're too busy, just tell them you're too busy. Go assign some sister or someone that doesn't even have experience. And this is how they handle things. So now they're telling everyone to, I'm just going to pause it here. They're telling everyone they give this example about little Timmy. How elders are too busy. They're always too busy. And they walk by little Timmy. Well, what Stephen Lett is doing here is he's giving the elders all over, the worldwide elders, supreme. He's given them right here in this video for not paying attention to the children. But a year ago, he called these children enemies of God. What is going on in this organization? What is going on in this guy's mind? Is this guy, Stephen Lett? Or is it the governing body? Well, I believe this is the governing body. He speaks for them. And these are well-scripted parts. These guys are movie stars. So let's just carry on and see what he says about little Timmy and stooping down to their levels and getting onto the level of the little children. This is new, folks. This is a Jesus-type religion, where the kids would approach Jesus. He's going to get into this. And these guys are worried. They have to conform this religion. There's a couple of things, and I said it in my last video. They're either waking up slowly and realizing, holy, we've been doing this all wrong. Or the governments are coming in on them and they're saying, oh, we're going to be canceled as a religion if we don't change. Which one is it? I'd appreciate your comments. Let me know. Here we go. I'll turn them on.
Here's a second thing that we can do to try to help our young ones. Try to help them to have spiritual goals. Now, of course, we support the parents in doing this. And again, that fits right in. We're never too busy for our young ones, and try to steer them towards spiritual goals. Jesus set a wonderful example, was never too busy for young ones. Please open up to the beautiful account in Mark chapter 10. We love this account. Mark chapter 10, verse 13, people now began bringing him young children for him to touch them. But the disciples reprimanded them. At seeing this, Jesus was indignant and said to them,
I don't know if you caught that, but they brought the kids to the disciples so they could touch them. That wouldn't go good nowadays if you bring your children to the elders so they can touch them. You see, the Catholic priests got this whole concept from the scripture that they had this power, this glory, or this energy from God. They were godlike, and people would bring their children just so the Pope or someone could touch them, as if that's going to do something. I think that's where they get a lot of this stuff from. But let's carry on here.
Let the young children come to me. Do not try to stop them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such ones. Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a young child will by no means enter into it. And he took the children into his arms, began blessing them, laying his hands on them. Now the Watchtower commented that perhaps the disciples thought Jesus surely didn't want to be bothered by children during the crucial weeks right before his death. But how wrong they were. And you can be sure Jesus' blessing on them motivated them toward spiritual goals. See? And that's what we want to do. We want our young ones to think about spiritual goals. Like the little 8-year-old boy that talked to the circuit overseer about his goals. Now, here's what he said.
You guys know
He said,
I got
"First,
this sped up a little bit here. If I slowed this right
Then I would like to
down,
help
here's
in
what
the
it normally
congregation
is.
serving with a sound and handling microphones.
It's very, very
Being an
hypnotizing
attendant, helping
on
with
a
the literature,
normal mode.
reading at Watchtower studies. Then I would like to be a ministerial servant, then an elder. I would also like to be a pioneer and go to pioneer school. Then I would like to go to Bethel and be a circuit overseer." Well, he had it all lined up, didn't he? spiritual goals. And we want to support the parents in trying to steer these young ones, taking time with them towards spiritual goals. Now, in the same vein, perhaps we can support the parents in helping these young ones to see the dangers of pursuing higher education in Satan's system.
Wow.
See, often there's great exposure
Wow.
to unscriptural ideas, philosophies, and theories.
So
Makes us think.
they want to keep the organization dumb. They want to dumb down the people. So the second generation that's coming up, they want to dumb them down. Don't push education on them. Push them to be circuit overseers. Push them to go to Bethel. Push them to pioneer. You see, the end's not any day yet, folks. They are now, a year ago, children who gives a crap about children? They're little enemies of God. And we know us apostates are taking that and kind of twisting it all out of shape, because he was talking about how we're born imperfect. But I call BS on that, because we're not born imperfect. We're born little record players, little recorders, and we record everything that's around us, and that's who we become. Little JWs, little JW robots. And that's what they want, not educated. They want us dumb us down. So I think that's a big warning, big cult warning. So let's carry on.
Think of the warning in Colossians chapter 2, and verse 8 starts out with the two words, look out. That means danger, be careful. Look out that no one takes you captive by means of the philosophy and empty deception according to human tradition. There's often also a lot of exposure to ungodly conduct in the case of ones who pursue higher education in Satan's world. Now, it's true, not all who pursue higher education in Satan's world experience those pitfalls. But is it a risk?
So a couple things to take home for those of you who are in the Norway government, German government, Japan government. This video shows you the stand of this organization on young people and education, higher education. Dumb them down. Follow the cult leaders. Become like them. Become cult-like. Join them. And keep the children dumb them down. Send them to school. There's all kinds of little videos that train these little robots on going into the schools with their little literature and getting little Bible studies with other little kids. So even if you're a parent out there, you're not a Jehovah's Witness, and your children are hanging out with Jehovah's Witnesses, be careful. Be careful. Because this is what they're saying. Do not get higher education. Do you want your children growing up dumbed down? Not understanding history? That's what he's saying, philosophies, but history. You know, you go to university, you take higher education, you're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to learn that this is a cult, and that's what they know. So there's no other religion on earth that's doing this to their children. There's none. Well, there could be some cults, but your big religions are not doing this. The Catholics don't do this. The Catholics believe in higher education. In fact, we ran some sessions on higher education and videos, and the scriptures are full of information that we have to acquire more knowledge. Knowledge is to be viewed as more important than gold. It's worth more. Knowledge and wisdom is worth more than gold. That's what the scriptures say. How do we get it? Well, in this world that we live in, we can take higher education if we choose. Now, these guys are okay with taking a trade, become an electrician, a plumber. They agree with that. But as soon as you get into university or higher education, if you're an elder, you're disqualified. If you have privileges in this organization as a brother, like myself, you lose all your privileges. And that's the way it is. So that's a cult. Let's go on.
Yes, worth taking. That's what we want to get our young ones to think about. I like to use the illustration of a school of hungry sharks. Now, let's say the statistics are that if 10 people try to swim through this school of hungry sharks, 8 of them will make it. Only 2 will be eaten by the sharks. Now, would you reason, well, that's very good survival rate, 80% survival. I think I can do it. I think I could swim through this school of sharks. You probably wouldn't take that risk, would you? Well, what's the point? Well, for those who try to swim through and survive spiritually, the figurative school of hungry sharks of higher education, probably the survival rate is not as good as in our illustration. But in contrast, we want our young ones and support their parents in this regard to set spiritual goals such as pioneering. They can accomplish so much more than pursuing anything in Satan's world. Now let's illustrate this point. I'd like for you to imagine.
Okay, before we let him get into the illustration, let's talk about what he just said. He said that if you put your children into higher education, you're sending them into a pool of hungry sharks. 2 out of 10 might make it, but 8 are going to get eaten. Do you want your children eaten by the hungry sharks of education, of higher education? This is the cult mentality. This is what he's saying. Look at him. Look at his face. Higher education. I don't get this. I've been watching this guy for 2 years, and he's deeply, deeply infected with the Rutherford virus, the trance, and to go on and on like this about higher education. It's to me, that's a sin. Now, for all of those looking at this, let your teachers know, let the governments know what this religion is pushing the children to do. We'll carry on here. It's terrible.
The world's best heart surgeon. Now let's say,
and they tell the flock that it's Satan's system. You are going out to Satan if you go to higher education. They do send. The organization does send some of their people to become lawyers. They need lots of lawyers now, and they are sending them certain ones to higher education. Now, I know a guy that studied with me. He was a regular pioneer. That was back when I was like 19. And we studied for a while. He went to Bethel. He got elected to be a lawyer. And within a year, he quit. Woke up. So let's carry on.
Years going to universities, medical schools, another 20 years practicing his profession, learning from other heart surgeons. With all that education, what's the most he can hope to accomplish? Perhaps extend the lives of some of his patients for a few years. Eventually, every one of his patients will die. In fact, eventually, the heart surgeon himself will die. You can go out to the cemetery, you can read tombstones, you can read the names of very excellent doctors buried in the cemetery. So with all that education, see, what one can accomplish is very limited. But now if you pursue the ministry, the spiritual goal of full-time service, what can you accomplish? Well, 1 Timothy 4:16, you can save yourself and those who listen to you, and we're talking
BS.
About everlasting
I was a
life.
pioneer.
Well, there are two things.
You know why that's BS? Because you don't have to be a pioneer. You don't even have to count time anymore to be saved. It's a double standard going on here. He's trying to push these kids to be pioneers, something that they're not. Children are not pioneers. I tried to make my children pioneers, and it went backwards on me. They rebelled. They didn't want to be pioneers. But we keep pushing our children to be pioneers. It's wrong. A lot of those children want to pursue a higher education. My son did. My son wanted to go to university. Couldn't make that decision, so he became a tradesman. And now he's not even in the trade. And now time has went by, and he can't afford it. It's at the time that they're learning that the children need to keep learning. And we have schools in all of our countries to help children that want to learn to keep learning. So you see, this is where this organization takes the choices away from the children, the choices away from the parents. And that's why, again, I say, we know it's a cult. They're not going to pass the Norway test if they keep giving talks like this. It's terrible. Let's just carry on.
Things we can do, support the parents in trying to be a friend of these young ones and direct them towards spiritual things. At 1 Peter 5:8, Satan is likened to a hungry lion. Genesis 3, he's depicted as a cunning serpent. At Psalm 91:3, a sneaky bird catcher. And he's really especially after our young people. He loves to gobble them down like a tasty morsel. But may we support the parents in trying to keep this from happening.
So, you see what a narcissist does? What he's saying out there is what they're doing. So he's looking out, all these school teachers, university professors, the governments, everybody, they're vicious, satanic lions, bird catchers. They're going to catch your children. Could you imagine telling the people, he's telling the parents this nonsense, telling them to believe in him, that everyone else out there is satanic. Now look at this guy on the screen. Who's satanic here? Who's under a trance? Like, this guy's under a serious trance. Like, we can all see it. But those that look in from the world, the Jehovah's Witnesses that look at this guy, they honor him. They give their allegiance to this man. And therefore, how do we know that? They don't send their children to school. They stop them, just like I did, because I, too, was under that trance. It's easy. Be careful, folks.
The parents need help. They need support. They need our help.
They need support from this organization.
Congregation. And Proverbs 3:27 tells us, "Do not withhold good from those to whom you should give it, if it is within your power to help."
So now, why would they not take their own advice here and apply it to helping all those victims? That's what he's talking about, children, and that we need to, but you see, a narcissist doesn't do that. He's looking there. It's about you parents. It's about what you're doing. This is the narcissist telling you. But don't look at what I'm doing. You see, the governing body is covering up thousands upon thousands upon thousands of CSA cases right now today. Thousands of them. Victims out there waiting for an apology. All they want was an apology. This narcissist is not going to give it. Well, folks, babies are now our friends. I don't believe that. This man is trying to take your children and make them think like him and not progress and become wiser and acquire more knowledge, such that the Bible teaches. So, folks, my advice, send your kids to college. Send them to university. Let your kids have a choice. Put aside an education fund for your children, because it's all about the children, isn't it? At least that's what he's saying. Well, folks, until next time, keep living your life with love. That always works. Bye for now.